your future.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Danked Lexicon, and welcome to yet another episode of the World Builder's Beginner's Guide. For today's subject, we'll be discussing the question, what is a genre? But first, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Please follow our upcoming campaign on Kickstarter, which includes art, books and miniatures inspired by our steampunk multiverse. And with that out of the way, back to the topic at hand. On this show, we have often defined steampunk as a subcategory of science fiction. But what is a subgenre? In this video, we'll be discussing two subjects. First, how genres are perceived by the public. This, however, will mostly be a rant for your amusement. And in the second part, we'll be discussing how genres are useful to the writer. We all have a vague idea of a genre, let's say the superhero genre, which we associate with stories related to spandex-clad, superpowered people fighting evil geniuses or alien invasions. Things get a bit more complicated when we mention fantasy. Wikipedia alone mentions over 30 subgenres, including dieselpunk for some reason. I think it's fair to suggest that Lord of the Rings is the definite example of the general fantasy genre, although there are probably a few readers out there going to tell me it's this or that subgenre. Leaving that aside, the tropes of fantasy include fantastical races, magic, anthropomorphic trees or mountains, and other worlds created by the gods. But then there are many flavors. My favorite series are Berserk, ElfQuest, and the earlier seasons of the Games of Thrones TV show. I like them because they are grounded, conceptual in a sense, tales that are as much about the world itself as it is about the characters. And they don't include every imaginable race like in D&D. This is a bit of a tangent, but I never liked Dungeons and Dragons. It's just everything. I get it. It's a game. Game masters make up new shit all the time, and that is reflected in the worlds. But there is no sense of mystery. Characters come across a monster or some other hidden race, and oh look, it's another race. It's all treated as mundane, and there's little sense of discovery. This is all subjective, right? Point is that we accept instinctively there is such a thing as subgenres, because of some types of fantasy are not like the others. Now, I think there are too many, in the sense that there are many labels that are so similar, there's really no point in them existing. Anyway, here's the thing about labels and genres. Most of these are used for marketing reasons. This book is X-Punk, and the reader goes, oh, I like X-Punk. You get the idea. The other is that authors want to appear unique by inventing new labels. Not a good reason, but understandable. Now, bit of a rant alert here. Too often genres are used as a descriptor of individual works of fiction rather than a collection of works that share a common source of inspiration. This is fine from the consumer's point of view, I suppose, but the public and critics alike ignore the creative process that leads to the final product. BioShock is a great example of this. The public just assumes that the video game and setting look the way they do because it's a whatever punk. Seriously, pick a punk or you'll find BioShock has been called that. Steampunk, dieselpunk, decopunk, Tesla punk, biopunk, ocean punk, hydropunk, aquapunk, and ranch punk, and retrofuturism. Of which I'm a bit surprised that this is even in the list. But what do any of these labels mean? Are there any other examples of wrench punk? It's one of those reasons I just gave up on making sense of all these subgenres. The problem here is that labeling any story as something punk omits how works of fiction or game becomes a finished product. BioShock was put together to create a credible world for the players to immerse themselves in. Some elements are there because the developers needed a solution, others because they came across things in the real world that inspired them. Most creative projects didn't end up as intended, For example, no one starts with the idea of making a terrible movie. Great cinema can be thwarted by faith, actors dying during production, natural disasters, destroying priceless sets, equipment malfunction, or just sheer incompetence. The same goes for brilliant scenes in cinema. Iconic moments in films come together by chance, which I will demonstrate. But first, let's discuss the meaning of the word iconic. There is this belief that creators can make something iconic by design. Iconic is a popular phrase used by marketers and self-promoting creatives. For example, arguably, the Associates of Ishtar look iconic with their masks and timeless aesthetic. Some would consider Enwyn to be a mascot of the series. I mean, look at her. She's adorable. And it may be, in the context of the series and its community, it is. It's not iconic in the way that the android of Metropolis is, or the big daddies from BioShock. Iconic means there's a deeper meaning there that goes beyond its franchise. Metropolis is a milestone in sci-fi movies. The Big Daddy represents environmental storytelling in gaming. Thor's hammer, sure, it looks awesome in the movies, but that hammer's legacy goes back 2,000 years in our history. Icons are also related to genre. What genre is this phrase? Engage. Or, you got my axe. Or, I'm your father. The same things happen during production of Blade Runner, a film that has become synonymous with the cyberpunk genre. The now signature rating nights are considered iconic, the benchmark for cyberpunk and sci-fi noir. But you're mistaken if you believe it was always supposed to look that way. You're wrong. These effects were applied to cover up the terrible building miniatures, so they used mist, rain, and low light to cover up the flaws. It's probably why so many creators failed to recreate this atmosphere, because the atmosphere was there to hide many of the shortcomings. Another example is the ridiculous but iconic Rover from the hit series The Prisoner. Wait, what's the Rover, you ask? Okay, tirade time.
Who are you? The new number 2. Who is number 1? You are number 6. I am not a number. I am a free man.
Look at this glorious bastard looming over its victims like an inflated condom. The Rover is a prison warden of sorts from this secret agent show. Kinda. Called The Prisoner. It's hard to explain. It's a peak 70s show you can watch on YouTube if you want to see it. Originally, that had some vehicle in mind for the Rover, but when the vehicle arrived on set, it looked like a cheap parade float shaped like a birthday cake, and they couldn't drive it for various reasons. It was already the first day of shooting, and they needed a machine to capture prisoners who were trying to escape the islands. So then one of the staff saw big white balloons fly by. This sparked the idea for the Rover. It's just a big balloon with a string, and they chase the actors with them. It's dumb, and it worked. And it became iconic. Not the most popular one, mind you, but a symbol of what you can do under pressure with some imagination. Now, The Prisoner is a sci-fi classic referenced in various works that came after, and all of that because of some guy saw some balloons fly over. In all these cases, the creators had to take shortcuts due to time restraints or budget issues, but instead of crap, they created something memorable. The companion cube for the Portal series is just an example. I could go on with examples like these. Even with the best laid plans, the creative process is messy, especially when dealing with creatives who can change course mid-production because of some flaw or problems giving them an idea. Just listen to various developer diaries and you'll be amazed how some of the most iconic scenes in a film are but a fluke, like the hilarious scene where Indiana Jones shoots somebody. It's because Harrison Ford was too sick that day for the intended fight scene. The Tears in Rain speech by Rutger Hauer in Blade Runner. It's something that the actor scribbled on a napkin inside his van just before filming. The ability to improvise is so important. Without Harrison Ford or Rutger Hauer's participation backstage, Blade Runner might have been an utterly forgettable film. lightning in a bottle, I think that's called. Also, for you world builders out there who are convinced that taking years to design a setting will create something everyone will want to read and make producers shower you with film deals, think again. What does this have to do with genre? Well, due to the essayist and fanwankery, the public got this idea in their heads that there is such a thing as perfect fiction, that writers are these legendary beasts crafting their stories and worlds with superhuman insight, and therefore everything they produce is as intended from the moment the first sentence was typed by their sausage fingers. No. Elements can come together by accident. The creators of BioShock knew the type of world they wanted to create and the story they wanted to tell, but they needed to figure out what tools they needed. Storytelling tools, I mean. One of these tools is genre. These things they discover along the way. But for that, I suggest the documentary the creators made themselves, where they discuss how they came up with the City of Rapture. Okay, rant over. It took me a while to get there, but I want my viewers to understand the difference between the perception of genre and how to use them. Too often, I hear genres being discussed as a goal in itself. No. The goal is to make people want to read your work. Or at least, that is my goal. Okay, post-production Denkert Lexicon here. I'm going to cut the video short. The second part will be up later when it's done. I'm very busy with organizing the Kickstarter that's gonna launch within 2 weeks. And on top of that, my cat is missing, so yeah. Got a lot on my mind right now. So I hope you enjoyed this video nonetheless, and I hope to see you soon. Don't forget to check out our website for weekly stories, and of course our Kickstarter page. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, make things your way. Goodbye.